Hey guys, and welcome to a new episode of School Your Soul. Today we have the lovely Marci Shimoff on the show to talk about happiness. Why do we care about happiness right now in the middle of a pandemic? Marci says in difficult times it's more vital than ever to access our happiness. She says happiness boosts our immune system, and if we're sick, it actually helps us heal more quickly. And ultimately, if we're able to find that sense of well-being within ourselves, we are more able to meet the challenges of life with grace and better serve the world and people around us. She says that we're each born with a happiness set point that varies from person to person, and we have the ability to raise that set point with different habits and behaviors. Marci is a #1 New York Times bestselling author, a world-renowned transformational teacher, and an expert on happiness, success, and unconditional love. Marci's books include the runaway bestsellers Happy for No Reason, Love for No Reason, and 6 titles in the phenomenally successful Chicken Soup for the Women's Soul series. Her books have sold more than 15 million copies worldwide in 33 languages, have topped all the major bestseller lists, and have been on the New York Times bestseller list for a total of 118 weeks. Marci is one of the best-selling female nonfiction authors of all time. Marci is also the host of the national PBS television special called Happy for No Reason, is a featured teacher in the movie The Secret, and is the narrator for the award-winning film Happy. Marci currently co-leads a worldwide program called Your Year of Miracles with thousands of participants from 42 countries for living a life of miracles. Marci has inspired millions of people around the world and is dedicated to helping people live more empowered and joy-filled lives. In today's show, we explore why happiness can feel fleeting and how to create lasting happiness, why finding ways to access happiness is vital during difficult times, a variety of habits that change our happiness set point, how to rewire our brain to think more positively, and much, much more. I hope you guys enjoy the show. Everyone, welcome to the show. I'm here with Marci Shimoff. Am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Yes, you are.
Okay, good. Marci and I were connected through a good friend of mine, Sandy Stewart, who is one of my favorite people on the entire planet. So I'm just thrilled that you were able to take the time to chat today. It's wonderful to be here with you.
Great to be with you. Really happy to be here and sharing what we get to share today, Sarah.
Yes. So you are an expert on happiness. Happiness is kind of a theme that you speak to really eloquently. You've interviewed thousands of people for your book and your programs and your classes, and you've really come up with a great formula of how people can become happier. So I want to know a little bit first. I think people can sometimes get the wrong idea about what happiness even is. So can you help us define what is happiness to you?
Absolutely. So I came up with the phrase happy for no reason, because to me, that's what I mean by happiness. And what I mean by happy for no reason is not that you're walking around 24/7 with a silly grin on your face or that you're in some Pollyanna state of denial. It means that you have an inner state of peace and well-being that doesn't depend on your circumstances. So most people in life are used to being happier because, I'll be happier when. I'll be happier when I get, when I have a better job. I'll be happier when I make more money. I'll be happier when I get married, or I'll be
Yes.
happier when I get divorced. Or notice what's interesting is so many people say, "Oh, I'd be so happy if I could just have a few weeks of time at home." And here now, people are getting many weeks of time at home, and I'd be happier if I could just get back to work.
Yeah.
So it's always something outside of us.
Yes.
And while I believe in being happy, I call that being happy for good reason. I believe in having great reasons, family and all these things, they're great reasons, but it doesn't bring us lasting happiness. And what I know we all want is true and lasting happiness. And so that's what this work is about. Happy for no reason is about creating that inner state of peace and well-being that even amidst whatever's going on in our lives or in the world, we still have this inner backdrop of peace and well-being.
Yes, yes, it's so vital right now. And also, I mean, I could hear people saying like, why is happiness at a moment like this? Like, why is happiness important? Like we're
Hmm.
all trying to survive. Like, is it like this
Right.
luxury? So tell us why. I kind of know my answer, but like, why is it so vital for all of us to
Yeah.
really tap into that happiness right now?
Yeah. So as we're going through a pandemic now, people think, well, I just have to be in survival mode. And the reality is that people who are naturally happier, what we're going to talk about today is how to get there, how to
Mm.
become happier. I don't mean naturally happier. I mean who've developed an inner state of happiness. They are more resilient. They're able to bounce back from this more. They have greater creativity. Their immune systems are stronger. In fact, happier people are 1/3 less likely to get sick. It's been shown that happier people live on average 7 to 9 years longer.
That's amazing.
Happier people,
A third less likely to get sick. That's
1/3 less likely to get sick.
incredible.
And if you do get sick, you have 50% more immunoglobulins to be able to
Wow.
recover from a virus.
That's
So this is
amazing.
actually one of the best defenses against a pandemic.
Wow. Those are
Not the
incredible.
only. I mean, of course,
Yeah.
please don't misunderstand me. Of course, we have to follow all of the
Stay
all
at
of the,
home.
the
Right.
other things out there, the protocols, but certainly happiness improves your health.
Yes. So what has been your personal journey with happiness? Or have you always been, extremely happy person?
I love that question because people always wonder, oh, you're so happy now. Have you always been happy? And the answer, Sarah, is absolutely not. I was not a happy camper. In fact, I joke that I came out of the womb with existential angst. I was born depressed. And I had a great
Oh.
family, great parents. Everything was fine on the outside. But I had this heaviness inside. I think I was a very much of an empath. And I
Hmm.
just felt the suffering of people around me, the suffering of the world. And I was depressed throughout my teenage years.
Mm.
My way of getting around it was sugar. I was a sugar addict, and I was
Mm.
about 35 pounds overweight in high school. And I, in my 20s, I did what a lot of people do to be happy because I wanted to be happy. That's what we all want in life. And so I set 5 goals for myself. Most people think, oh, if I reach my goals, then I'll be happy. And that was me. I set 5 goals for myself and figured once I got those, I'll be happy. And let me just share those with you because I think a lot of people can relate.
Please.
I wanted to have a successful career helping people. I wanted to have a great husband or life partner, fabulous friends, a comfortable home, and the equivalent of Halle Berry's body. Now, I got 2 out of the 5. I don't have Halle Berry's body, but I did get the other ones, and I have a healthy body for which I'm very grateful.
Yeah.
And I worked really hard to get all my ducks in a row for that. And I had a turning point moment. And the turning point moment was in 1998. And I had just finished giving a talk to 8,000 people. I
Wow.
had autographed 5,432 books. My client had had a massage therapist there to massage my hands so I wouldn't get carpal tunnel. I felt like an author rock star. And I had everything going. I had, I just had I really was sort of at the top of my career with all these books on the New York Times bestseller list, all this good stuff going on. I remember going up to my hotel room after I autographed that last book. And I went over to, it was in Chicago, I went over to these beautiful view overlooking Lake Michigan, huge windows overlooking Lake Michigan. And I took in that view and I turned around and I fell onto the bed and I burst into tears. And I burst into tears because I realized I had everything I thought I needed in life to be happy, and I still wasn't. I still had that empty feeling in my heart that I had always had. And I could no longer trick myself into thinking that just that next thing was going to make me happy. So I pretty much uh, dropped what I was doing, and I put myself headfirst into studying happiness. And I interviewed all the experts out there, and I interviewed hundreds of unconditionally happy people, and I started doing what they were suggesting, and it worked.
Mm.
And I kept doing it more, and it worked more. And I would say that back then, if you had graded me in happiness, I would have gotten a D plus. Today, I am a solid A. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm not a work in progress, because I absolutely am. I still work on it every day, but it means that it is changeable. And now I've shared this with hundreds of thousands of people, and it hasn't just worked for me, it's worked for them too. So I get really excited about this because it's something all of us can do, is be happier, and it's the thing that people have wanted most since time immemorial.
Yes. So tell me a little bit about the happiness set point, because I know that's a really
Yeah.
important, and this is scientifically backed, right? I also think people love
Yeah.
to hear that.
So this is the most exciting thing that I learned in my research on happiness, and that is that we all have a happiness set point. And no matter what happens to us, whether it's good or bad, we will tend to come back to our happiness set point and hover there unless we do something consciously to change it. And this explains everything to me. This explains why I would get happy for a little bit because I'd achieved something I wanted, but then I'd return to my original happiness set point. This, by the way, is why people who win the lottery, and everybody thinks, oh, all I'd have to do is win the lottery and then I'd really be happy.
Yeah.
It explains why people who win the lottery, they're happier for a few months, but within about a year, they've returned to their original happiness set
And
point.
sometimes they're like, I've heard that they're even less happy after
Yeah,
that
because they
winning.
realized they thought that the money was going to make them happy, and that didn't work. And so, oh my God,
Now they're
what
like,
now?
now what, right?
Yeah, and a lot of people who've achieved some of their goals also have felt that, like, oh my God, now what? I
That
bet that everybody's listening had an experience in their life of achieving something that they thought they really wanted and it was going to really make them happier. And it did for a little while, but fairly soon they returned to their set point.
Yeah,
Yeah. Have you had that experience?
I would say almost, well, everybody I've interviewed on the show certainly has some story that's similar, and it's almost like the sooner we can realize that the thing that we're trying to achieve externally isn't going to bring us what we think it is, then the better. Because some people say they learned it in later in life, and they're like, ah, I just wasted so much time. And I just find that's part of the reason I love doing the show. It's like I want to learn all these things early, the sooner the better, so that I can really apply it to my life.
Absolutely. And by the way, for those of you who have children, I'm going to be sharing some practices together today that you can use with your children. And the
Yes,
sooner you do get started with that, the better. And so let's talk for a minute about the happiness set point, since it's so key to
please,
everything. Yeah.
please.
So the happiness set point, and as you said, this is scientifically based. It is only 10% our circumstances. Oh my God,
That's
really?
crazy.
So you can change everything in your life, and it's only going to be 10% of it.
Yeah.
50% of your happiness set point is your genes, your DNA. You're born with it. I was not born with that happiness genes. The other 40% is our habits of thoughts and behavior. And that's what we can do the most about to change our whole set point. Now, I'm going to take it a step farther and say that 50% that I said is genetic. There are scientists in the field of epigenetics who say that by changing our habits of thoughts and behavior, even our genetics, our DNA will change.
Yes.
Now, to me, that is like hallelujah. That means 90% of our happiness set point can be changed by these simple habits.
Yes. Oh, yeah. We've had Bruce Lipton on the show, and we've had Rudy
Okay.
Tanzi on the show, and they both talked about epigenetics. And man, what an exciting time in science for that stuff. Okay, so really quickly, with the 40% with the genes, like in integrative
You
body
know, with the
cycles,
habits,
or what?
40% with the habits or 50% with the genes?
Okay, so 50% with genes and 40% with the habits. Okay, sorry, I'm writing all this down. And then
Yeah,
10% is our circumstances. So
exactly.
with the genetic stuff, do you think, is that like generational, like in psychology that I've studied, is that like the generational themes that are like passed down from like, your mom's mom, and has just been like carried through the family, right?
Absolutely. It's the ancestral lineage that we
Okay.
often are here carrying. I believe that we're here to heal.
Yes.
It has been said that when we heal ourselves, we heal 7 generations before us and 7 generations after.
Mm. Oh, I
And,
love
I just
that.
have this philosophy that life is Earth is a learning school. We're in school on the planet, and it is to heal old patterns, our own and our ancestors, to actually ultimately know the truth of who we are.
Yes. Oh, I love that. Okay, good. Yeah. Sorry, it took us off on the tangent for a second. All right, so we have
That's
our
okay. I love that you asked that.
so we have our happiness set point that we now know that we can shift. So what are some of the habits, some of the things that we can do to help reprogram?
Yeah. So I found that there are 21 main happiness habits, and they fall into 7 main areas. And I want to go through these 7 areas just briefly with you so that everybody can see, well, where am I the weakest? Because
Yes.
that's where you're going to have the greatest success in shifting your happiness set point. We all have different areas that are our Achilles heel. So let's go through for a moment these 7 areas. And I know it's hard for people to remember 7 of anything. So I created an analogy, a metaphor. I call it, we're building our inner home for happiness. Now, a home
Mm.
has 7 main components. It's got a foundation, it's got 4 corner pillars, it's got a roof, and it's got a garden.
Okay.
And here's how that relates to our 7 main areas of focus for happiness.
Okay.
The foundation is about taking responsibility for your life and for your happiness. Do you show up in life as a victim in life or as a creator in life? Now, victims, you know you're in a victim behavior when you're blaming others, shaming yourself, or complaining about life. Blaming, shaming, or complaining. So if you do a lot of that, then you may need to focus on this foundation, which is taking responsibility for your life and for your happiness. Your happiness is not dependent upon your spouse's mood. It's not dependent upon the economy. It's not dependent upon these things outside of us. So it's about
Mm-hmm.
us.
Okay.
Then, so then there's the 4 corner pillars, the pillar of the mind, the body, the heart, and the soul. The mind is about your thoughts. Do your thoughts support your happiness, or do they take you in a downward spiral of negativity? And we can spend a few minutes later on talking more about that. I can give you a technique that you can use or a tip you can use on how to reverse that.
Great.
So that's the mind. The body. Do you have the biochemistry of happiness? Do you have enough endorphins, serotonin, oxytocin? You know, these building, they're called the biochemistry of happiness. The heart, and by the way, that was the one where I was the weakest, was the body. So I had to do some things there. The heart has to do with living with an open heart. Every happy person I've ever met has an open heart. And that means they have gratitude, they have loving kindness, they have generosity, they have forgiveness. They live with this open heartedness. And we can also talk a little bit about that. I can give you a technique for living with more of an open heart.
Great.
And then the soul is about being connected to your spirit and to the greater energy of the universe. I don't care whether you call it God, the divine, nature, oneness. It does not matter, creative intelligence. What matters is you feel your connection to this grander scheme of life.
Mm.
And then there's the roof of our inner home for happiness, which is our purpose or passion in life. Are you living an inspired life? Do you wake up in the morning saying, I am inspired today for what I have ahead of me because I am living my purpose? And then finally, there's the garden. And the garden has to do with who you surround yourself with. Are you surrounding yourself with people who support your happiness, or are you surrounding yourself with people who don't? So or do you have a lot of gardenias and roses in your garden, or a lot of weeds that are strangling you in some ways? And what are the things that we can do to create more boundaries around the negativity around us, and to ensure that we have a stronger network of positivity? So those are the 7 areas: taking responsibility for your life, your mind, your body, your heart, your soul, your purpose, and your support system. So I want everybody to just look, where are you the weakest? And Sarah, I'm going to ask you. So where
Ooh,
do you
yes.
think you're?
Well, I was just kind of looking up. I honestly could say I could do work in every single one of these categories. And I value so strongly every single thing you're saying. Like that's what this show is all about, is literally all the areas that you listed things. But I would say the areas that currently I feel could use the most work. One would be my body, because although I am breastfeeding, so I have some extra oxytocin coming in, which is great. But I haven't exercised as much as I'd like, and I know for me, I do a lot of yoga, and yoga is and like sweating really affects me so strongly. And I've with a little child, I think that's been the first thing that I stopped doing. So I know that in my heart, I need to really prioritize and create more time for that. And then the garden thing speaks to me surprisingly because I have amazing people who support me. I have very positive, wonderful people in my life. But I think for a while I've known I need to expand my tribe of um, kind of in this soul community. Like I need to go, I reach out and
Yeah.
find more of a community there that than I have. Like I have wonderful friends, but that are really in this spirit, soul, self-help area. I think that would really enhance my happiness a lot. So those are the two things that
That
come
is
to mind.
that is so great. Well, I appreciate your being so honest and authentic, and really, this is why it's so important. What's important for you may not be important for me. Where my weakness is not your weakness. So it's not a one size fits all. Now, ultimately, we need all of those to be strong. But when you want to see the most results in your life, go for where your Achilles heel is. And I do appreciate that you said the exercise one, because for me, my weakness is also the body. And whenever I start to not feel as great, the very first thing I need to do is be checking my exercise and making sure I'm getting enough exercise. And that's mine. But for other people, it's the spiraling of thoughts. So let me just share with you a very simple thing that you can do for your health that makes a huge difference. And it sounds so crazy simple, but it's around sleep. It's not around exercise, it's around sleep. Research on happiness has shown that your happiness level today depends more on your quality of sleep than it does last night than it does on your income level or your marital status.
Oh, wow.
Sleep is key, and it's not just the amount of sleep, it's the quality of sleep.
Oh, I'm in
So I'm going to
trouble,
suggest
Marcy. I'm in trouble right now with this
well,
child.
I think a breastfeeding mother has a different system going, so you're
Okay.
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 That's why the breast oxytocin to make up for it.
Okay.
But so two things about sleep. One is what you do, what you pay attention to right before you go to sleep programs the quality of your sleep that night. The very worst thing you could do right before you read the news or watch the news on TV, just not good. You'll find that you may not notice it, but your sleep will be more agitated. So make sure you do something positive, uplifting. Gratitudes are wonderful to do right before you go to sleep. Just what are you grateful for that day? But the second thing that most people don't know about sleep is that there are rhythms. Our bodies have circadian cycles. And the best time to go to sleep is just before 10 p.m. In Ayurveda, which is the ancient system of Indian well-being and health, we move into a different cycle. And also in the Chinese system of medicine, we move into a different cycle around 10 p.m. And the period of time between 10 and 2 in the morning is the time when you get the most regenerative sleep. Sleep is to regenerate the body. And so what you want to do is try to go to bed 3 nights in a row by 10 and notice what happens on the 4th day. Notice if you don't feel different.
Okay. I go to bed at not 8:30 or 9 with this
That's
child.
perfect. Excellent. You're doing great. You're doing great.
Okay, so what are will you lead us through would tell us a little bit about that HeartMath um the
Yes,
5, yeah, and then lead us into that exercise.
absolutely happy to. So I'm going to give you a couple of different practices, at least,
Great,
that you can do at home to raise your happiness set point right away.
great.
And the first one is from a group called the Institute of HeartMath. It's called the Inner Ease Technique. And they are the world's leading researchers on the heart and happiness. And they found that
I'm kind of losing you.
they found that pixelating.
It's
So one of the biggest tools that I love using is something that I learned from a group called the Institute of HeartMath. And they are the world's leading researchers on heart and happiness. And they have actually found that when you are angry or frustrated or upset for just 5 minutes, that it can weaken your immune system for up to 6 hours. But when you're feeling happy, grateful, easy, love-filled for 5 minutes, it can strengthen your immune system for up to 6 hours. Now, that's pretty dramatic. I mean, it's really important these days that we have strong immune systems. And so I want to share a technique. It's not even going to take us 5 minutes. We'll do it maybe 2 minutes. And I want you to notice if you feel any different. So, Sarah, are you willing to be my guinea pig for this?
I would love it.
Okay. So I want everybody who's listening to do this along with us. If you're driving, you can't do it right now. You can do it when you get to your destination. But otherwise it's just not. It will not produce any benefit for you for listening to us. So it's 3 simple steps, and you can do this with your eyes open or closed. I find it goes a little deeper if your eyes are closed. So if you are able to, please close your eyes. And the first step is to simply place the palm of your hand over your heart. Now, that simple act of putting your hand on your heart starts the flow of the chemical that Sarah and I have been talking about called oxytocin. And it's called the bonding hormone. It's because we have much more of it when we feel bonded and connected to each other. So when we're with friends, we have oxytocin. When we're breastfeeding, Sarah, you're getting a lot of oxytocin. But right now, just having your hand on your heart like this is stimulating the flow of oxytocin throughout your body. Now, the second step is to imagine that you're breathing in and out through your heart. So imagine that your breath is coming into your heart and your breath is going out of your heart. It's called heart-focused breathing. And on your inhale, you breathe into your heart, and you can also breathe deeper into your belly as well, but just that it comes in through your heart and your breath goes out, back out, exhaling through your heart. And breathing in and out at your own pace. Each inhale into the heart, each exhale out of the heart. And finally, the third step, on each inhale, I want you to imagine that you're breathing in love, compassion, and ease. Exhales, you can just exhale normally out of your heart. The inhales, breathe into your heart, love, ease, and compassion. And you can do that by remembering a time when you felt any of those, love, ease, or compassion. Or you can think of a person or a four-legged who helps you feel love, ease, and compassion. Or if you don't have an easy time visualizing that, no problem. You can just internally, silently say to yourself, love, ease, and compassion. And take one more deep breath, breathing in love, ease, and compassion. And on your next exhale, you can slowly take your hand away and slowly open your eyes. And notice, if you will, as you're coming back into the room, what is it that feels different now than a couple of minutes ago? Either emotionally or physically. How do you feel any different? And that was just a couple of minutes. So, Sarah, tell me, you're the guinea pig. Mm-hmm. How do you feel any different?
I feel like the colors in the room are more vibrant, and I feel the warmth. I felt a lot of warmth and tingling in my heart that kind of spread throughout my body. I felt this wave of energy and love and joy. It just felt so good. And it felt like a heart opening. I would imagine that to be the feeling.
Great. Yeah. So all of what you mentioned is what science calls the love response. And the love response is actually a physiological state, just like the stress response is a physiological state. It's got its own brain activity, its own heart rhythms, its own biochemistry, and you've just created or some of the love response. And some people, not everybody has the same sensations. It's okay if you didn't have those same sensations that Sarah said. Maybe you felt peaceful. Maybe you felt grounded. Maybe you felt just more in your body, more centered. All of those are indicators of moving into the stress response. And here's the trick about this. Doing this one time is just a nice experience. It won't make any lasting change in your life. But if you do want to have lasting change, if you want to raise your happiness at that point, what I found is that doing this a couple of times a day for just a couple of minutes, just like we did, will start to habituate the love response. It will start to get you more and more in that state and can raise your happiness at that point. So this is something, I know we don't have a lot of extra time in our lives. This is something you can do anytime. You can do when you're on the phone talking to somebody. You can do when you're standing in line at the grocery store 6 feet behind the person they're behind as we're social distancing. But you can do this anytime to really help ground yourself. Simple, small, baby steps is what creates a change in your happiness at that point.
Is doing that little 2-minute exercise we just did, does that affect our immune system, like you said, for the next few hours?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Thank you for bringing that back up. It does. Every time we move more and more into the love response, we are improving our immune response. We are we're building our immune system. So definitely. Amazing. And do this with your family. Something, if you've got small kids, teach it, or big kids, teach this to them.
Yes.
It's great. Yes.
Okay, any other good daily practices?
Yes, let's talk about our thoughts. Because right now, a lot of people are getting into what I either call, spiraling down, where it's just they go into more catastrophizing. Oh my gosh, what if this goes on for ages? What's going to happen? And we get into the sky is falling syndrome. Or we can just get stuck in our same old thought patterns. And so what we want to do is we want to shift our thinking. And science has found that we have 60,000 thoughts a day, and for the average person, 80% of those are negative. It's called the negativity bias. It's what a friend of mine, Rick Hansen, who's written about happiness also, he calls the Velcro Teflon syndrome. Our minds are like Velcro for the negative. They just stick to us. And Teflon for the positive that slides off of us. And I'll give you an example. If you get 10 compliments in a day and 1 criticism, what do you remember at the end of the day?
The criticism.
The criticism, that's right. Happy people have reversed that. They Velcro the positives and they Teflon the negatives. So I want to share with you how you can Velcro the positives, how you can actually create more positive neural pathways in the brain. And when you have more positive neural pathways in the brain, you actually tend to notice the positive more. And so here's what science tells us we need to do. 3 simple steps. The first step is be on the lookout for the good. I had one of the women that I interviewed for Happy for No Reason. She pretends that she is the Academy Awards committee. And her job in life is to give out 5 Academy Awards every day. So she might be out for a walk and pass along the street a cute, fluffy little white dog. And she'll think to herself, that dog gets the cutest dog of the day award. Or you might be on the lookout for the most inspiring story. There's so many great inspiring stories that are out there now as people are in modes of generosity and kindness through the pandemic. You might be on the lookout for good. 5 things a day that you are giving an Academy Award to. That's the first step. The second step is that we need to savor the good for at least 20 seconds. It takes 20 seconds to create new neural pathways in the brain for the positive. It does not take that long to create new neural pathways for the negative. But because our brains aren't as used to it, we have to savor the good for it to actually land. Now that means that the next time you're looking at a beautiful sunset, instead of saying, oh, what a pretty sunset, you actually have to take it in for at least 20 seconds, which is 3 long breaths worth. Really letting that land in your body. If you see that cute, fluffy white dog, it's not enough to go, oh, that dog gets the cutest dog of the day award. You've got to enjoy that for 20 seconds. That may mean walking over to the owners, not too close, 6 feet apart, and telling the owner that that dog gets my cutest dog of the day award, and having a conversation about it so that you're spending at least 20 seconds on that positive. So that's the second key. The third key is to go for the 3-to-1 ratio, 3 positives to every 1 negative. So that means anytime you're getting stuck in something negative, you got to replace it with 3 positive things. So those are the 3 steps. Number 1, be on the lookout for the good. Look for at least 5 things a day that are really good, because there is a lot out there. Number 2, savor it for at least 20 seconds so it becomes a new neural pathway in the brain. And number 3, go for the 3-to-1 ratio, 3 positives for every 1 negative. And what you'll find is you will start really creating new neural pathways in the brain for positivity, so it becomes easier to actually Velcro that positive to you.
I love these. These would be such great things to do with your kids also. I know you mentioned that earlier, but like such an easy, fun thing to do those Academy Awards with your children and have that be just this practice, because when we learn these things when we're young, they're then in our subconscious and they're part of our DNA. They're part of who we are. And I think as parents, it's such a gift to be able to give your child to say, wow, like I get to help program a more positive message than maybe I got. And also, but with the 3-to-1 ratio, what does that look like? Are we just saying in our head, thinking of 3 things that are unrelated to the negative thought we had? Do they have to be related?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. You can do that, or you can, there are a lot of beautiful techniques, many of which I talk about in Happy for No Reason, that I think are wonderful to shift any negativity. I talk about the work of Byron Katie, which is asking yourself specific questions. I talk about tapping, emotional freedom technique. All of these I am fully on board with. I think that what I've seen is that the more tools you have in your toolkit, the better off you are in terms of raising your happiness set point.
Yes. Any other techniques before we move on that you think are great? They're all wonderful. I mean, I think you gave us a good...
All right, so here's something. We've talked about 3 things so far today. We've talked that you can do practically. One is about going to sleep earlier than by 10 o'clock and making sure you are not watching the news, making sure you're doing something positive so that you improve your quality of sleep. The second thing we talked about, practically speaking, was the inner ease technique, that very simple technique that can raise your immune response. And then third, we talked about changing our thought patterns, Velcroing the positive by doing those 3 simple steps of being on the lookout for the good and savoring the good and going through the 3-to-1 ratio. So here's the most important thing: picking one and committing to doing it for the next week or 2. Because what happens is people learn a bunch of things and they know things. Knowing things or information does not create transformation. Baby steps creates transformation. Now here's a trick to this: don't do all 3. Pick one. When we try to bite off too much, we give it up. You do it for 2 days and then it's gone. Pick one and do it consistently for a week. Once you've got it really well ingrained, then pick another. And that's the way to raise your happiness set point.
I love it. I'm excited. I'm very excited about these.
And here's one other little tip.
Yeah.
Find a buddy. I call them your happiness buddy. It's easier to do this with somebody else. So find a buddy who you think also wants to improve their happiness, and share this interview with them, and share this with them, and ask them what are they going to do, and be checking in with each other at least once a week. How are you doing on that practice that you committed to? That makes things more fun and easy. I have an accountability buddy. She happens to be my best friend for the last 41 years. And we check in with each other every Thursday morning at 8 a.m. And we go through this.
Oh, I love it. All right. Wellness buddies, everyone. We're on it.
Yeah.
All right. So last couple questions. What I think daily routines and practices are really important, as you're saying, kind of having these things that you're doing over and over. Do you have a daily wellness practice?
Oh, I definitely do. And it's a lot of things. So I don't want to overwhelm people because, I mean, I'm happy to share it and I will, but I built these habits over years and years. So I like to wake up by 6 and I watch the sunrise if I can from my window. I have a window that faces east. Lovely, beautiful sunrise. I greet the day with gratitude. I do an Ayurvedic routine, which Ayurveda is as I mentioned, the health system of India. It's 5,000 years old. And I do an Ayurvedic massage for myself with some oil in the morning. I take a shower. I exercise. I meditate. Not always in the same order, but I always get those things in. I exercise. I meditate. Some mornings as I said, I have my accountability call. I work. I drink. Oh, I'm sorry. I drink 16 to 32 ounces of warm lemon water first thing in the morning. I do celery juice for breakfast. I eat a healthy, really good, yummy lunch. I try to take a walk after lunch, just a simple walk, not long, but just to allow my body to easily integrate the food. I then sometimes meditate a second time in the afternoon, not always, sometimes. And then I like to have my evenings off. Don't always. I run calls oftentimes until 7:30 at night. But when I can, I do my best to really relax. Sometimes take a saltwater bath, Dead Sea salt bath, and do my best to be in bed by 10. That's my ideal routine, and I'm not always perfect with it. But compassion is good. What I try to do is acknowledge myself for the ways that I do it well rather than what I didn't do.
I love that. Gosh, that sounds like a beautiful day, Marci.
I feel very, very, very blessed and very lucky, and it was because I just have to say this. It's not hard to do because you hear that and you think, oh my God, I can't do all of that. You don't need to. I started feeling better by doing one or two practices. You know, when I said in 1998 I had that like turning point moment, I started with a couple of things. I started where I was the weakest, and I noticed amazing results right away. So don't the biggest thing we can do is the worst thing we can do is go into the feeling of overwhelm, and the best thing we can do is recognize I only need to do one thing at a time, and it won't take a lot of time.
Oh, okay. All right, winding down here. Is there a message you'd like to kind of share directly with our audience about kind of living a life with meaning and happiness?
Yeah, I often find people ask me, isn't it selfish what you're talking about? Wanting to be happier. What about everybody else in the world? You know, don't we have to take care of others? And my answer is absolutely. Our job in life is to take care of ourselves and take care of others. And the best way we can take care of others or contribute to the world is by taking care of ourselves. We can't run on empty and be of great value. The fuller we are, the more we overflow. And I always love to share this Chinese proverb because I think it sums up that philosophy. It goes like this. It says, when there is light in the soul, there will be beauty in the person. When there is beauty in the person, there will be harmony in the house. When there is harmony in the house, there will be order in the nation. And when there is order in the nation, there will be peace in the world. And my prayer and my wish for every one of us is that we know that light, that happiness in our own souls, and through that we help contribute to a planet of greater happiness and of greater peace.
I love it. Thank you so much, Marci. It's been such a pleasure to share this time with you, and I'm so grateful for all that you're bringing to the world. And
I love it. And Sarah, may I share with everybody a gift, a free gift?
Please, yes.
Because I've talked about how there are 21 happiness habits, and we all need to start where we are. And I've created a Happy for No Reason workbook. It has all 21 of the happiness habits and one practice or exercise to go with each one. So some of the things that I've shared with you today, they are in this workbook. And also it's got an assessment, a self-assessment, where you can see where you are on the happiness continuum now and how you can raise your happiness. So I would love to give that to everybody. And do you have a link, or am I just giving the link of where they can get it?
I can put a link in the show notes. You can say it now. Either
Great.
way, I'll definitely put a link in the show notes.
So you simply go to happyfornoreason.com. Happy for FOR noreason.com, and that will have in there what I've shared with you today and so much more, and great practices. Especially I think that it's so important right now that we are raising our happiness set point so we can be lights for the world.
Oh, that was the best. Thank you so much, Marci.